I am going to use my 15 minutes today to talk about something just a little bit different. And it should hopefully kind of inspire people to think about open access a little bit more broadly, maybe. So there's a great world of open scholarship out there. I'm sorry, guys, I'm having such an issue here with this. Sorry, wrong beginning. Okay, let's cross our fingers. Okay, fab. All right, I think we're in business. Thank you, Michelle, for that thumbs up. Okay, so I am talking today about open for everyone. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about the larger world of open access that's kind of sort of outwit the scholarly world, but I am also going to touch on the scholarly world. Just at the start, I just want to say that there's still a lot of proprietary systems, paywalls, and other barriers to knowledge. And some of the stuff I'm going to highlight today is kind of aiming to tackle that. Some quick thanks at the top. I'd like to give a quick shout out and thank you to my colleague Sonia Francisco in TU Dublin for the suggestion for this image, which is the Doors of Dublin, which is a CC licensed image. You'll see my attribution statement there at the bottom. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my other colleagues at TU Dublin for listening to me speak on these topics unfiltered on the daily, and also to my appropriately named husband, Stephen, who also has to listen to this unfiltered ad nauseum day in, day out. And you can thank him for the editing, which is a constant challenge of mine, as I'm sure you're aware. I also have ADHD and have a tendency to sort of go off on a bit of a tangent. So I'm going to really try and rein myself in here today. And quick disclaimer, completely non-exhaustive examples, non-exhaustive lists, and I've created a Microsoft form which I'm adding a QR code to at the end. So if you're sitting there and you're like screaming at your laptop, "Oh my God, Ashling, why are you not talking about this thing?" Please let me know what it is by filling in that form at the end. And I actually had to cull so much from this presentation that there's several slides after my thank you at the end of more resources. And I'm going to add to that with whatever comes in through the form. And then whatever way these slides are made available to you, you'll have all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to kick off, and I just want to lay a foundation just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I do this with everyone, so don't feel like I'm singling you out, okay? So what is open? Well, strictly speaking, something is open, a work is open if it has an open license. And there are types of open licenses. One you might be really familiar with is Creative Commons. So Creative Commons licenses are open licenses, but there's also GNU licenses for open software. So some great resources in this area. Creative Commons, their website itself, they have not only a license chooser, so like if you're publishing and you're unsure what license you should pick, it will take you through some questions and help you with picking a license. They also have an attribution builder, so if you come across something that's openly licensed, you're not sure how to reference it, you can use that. And they also have a search engine to search literally billions of Creative Commons licensed works. TLDR legal, which is mentioned there as well, that's more for the software side for the GNU licenses. And to be honest, very, very handy because it's plain language license explainers. And it really lets you know in brass tacks what you can and cannot do with an item. And they also explain CC licenses, but I mean, Creative Commons license has that covered. And there's even a toolkit that was created by the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning for Higher Education, such a mouthful. And they have an open licensing toolkit, which is available under CC BY license. I have it just an image of it there. And this is a great resource that takes you through understanding them, to key decisions, to creating a license, to adding that license, and also best practices. So I'd really like to flag that there. And just to kind of round this off, I just want to clear up what open is not. So open does not mean freely available online. Like I get that a lot. People saying, "Oh, it's freely available online, it's open." I'm like, no, it's only open if it has an open license. And just because you can find something online, just because you can download something or use it, that does not make it open. And in fact, there's thousands of websites that share copyrighted items illegally. And this is not open. This is in fact piracy, and it is in fact illegal. And it's sometimes known as black open access, but I completely disagree with that terminology. Furthermore, as kind of alluded to by Tom, there's what's known as sort of bronze open access, which is publishers of making something freely available online, often just to read, and this is without a license, so it cannot be considered open. And they also have the ability to remove access to that whenever they feel like. And this happened a lot during COVID. Sorry to mention the C word, but hopefully there's not a resurgence of that kind of activity. So just to kind of finish this off, this is a slide that many of you may be familiar with of mine. So this is a spectrum of rights, and I just kind of just to round this off. So on the left-hand side, we have copyright. So that's all rights reserved. And when you think copyright, just think Disney. Okay, think Mickey Mouse. I could not include a photo of Mickey Mouse here without the prior authorization of the Disney Corporation. Okay, creches have been sued for unauthorized use of Disney images. Like, it happens, it's enforceable. And then on the right hand side, the near polar opposite, we have the public domain. So this is no rights reserved. It can be used in any way, shape, or form without prior authorization by anyone because it is in the public domain. So think Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh went into the public domain, and one of the very first things that happened to Dear Winnie was he was the titular villain in a horror film. So, you really can do anything once something's in the public domain. So in between this is Creative Commons, which I'm kind of using as shorthand here for open. And Creative Commons and open licenses can only be applied to copyrightable works, and it allows the copyright holder, the creator, to retain the copyright while giving the public permission to use the item under specific terms of the license. So some rights reserved. I could genuinely do an entire hour on this topic, so please excuse me for being brief here. I just want you to know that when you're confronted with each one of these symbols, you should understand what that means to you as a user, and you should pay attention to the Creative Commons license terms to make sure that you are using the item appropriately. So, moving on. Open access for me, it's about unlocking all knowledge. So yes, absolutely. I work in an academic institution. My main focus is scholarly works. But I also have to explain what it is I do to friends and family who have absolutely no idea what open access means. So there's a bit of that bent here today. So I just want to say that, open is about removing as many barriers as possible. These proprietary systems, closed publication, unlicensed materials, and profit-driven publishing, they present barriers. And whatever you're researching, whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, I would ask you to consider making an open version of that available to the world, because who knows where that could go? Who knows what that could inspire? And in the spirit of inclusion, I'm only going to flag things now that anybody can use and anybody can access, so you don't need to be within an institution to use. And also, this is an example of an attribution statement for a CC license image down the bottom. Best practice is what's known as TASL, which is title, author, source, and license. So typically, you can do it quite simply when you're using images. So the title is open access buttons, and that link there will take you to the source. I have the author, and that link will take you to their author page. And I have the license, which will link you to the specifications of the license, and that is what's known as best practice. So finding open access scholarly works. First of all, I just want to highlight something pretty fun. So there's an open access directory, and this is hosted by the School of Library and Information Science at Simmons University, and it's supervised by an independent editorial board. And they are currently looking for a new co-editor right now. If anybody in the audience is interested, I would highly encourage it. So this is a community created and curated wiki, and it's a compendium of factual lists maintained by the open access community at large. Bringing these lists together makes it easier to discover them, to reference them, and to update them. And so I'd really like to flag that just for absolutely anybody with an internet connection to learn more. So then moving on, Open Alex. Open Alex is named in honor of the Library of Alexandria. It's a nonprofit, it's based in Canada, and it's an alternative to Web of Science and Scopus. It is under attack and will probably continue to be under attack by large publishers. And they're also the same people who bring you Unpaywall. On Paywall, massive recommend, particularly the browser extension. This allows you to find open access versions of non-open materials. So if something's closed, if you need to pay for something, and there is an open access version available that on Paywall can find, the little padlock will light up green and you can click on it to be taken straight there. Similar vein, and I know it's been shouted out already, but Core, which is the connecting repository, also a nonprofit dedicated to open access, and their mission is to index all research worldwide and deliver unrestricted access for all. So then just to flag, I'm sure people know these, but the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, and the Directory of Open Access Books, DOAB, excellent sources of information, highly trusted information. It's a very difficult index to get into. They have incredibly high standards. Trust me, I'm aware of the process. And then finally, OER Commons for finding open educational resources. So these are just excellent jumping off points, and quite literally anybody can use any of these, so I would highly recommend. So in a kind of fun vein, like there's 2.5 billion CC license works that exist over millions of websites, and this is like out with the scholarly thing. And I've given you two lists here. So there's a wiki list of major CC license works, which is categorized and genuinely quite interesting, as well as the Creative Commons search portal, which you can search the CC license works. It's very handy, it's very simple, it's lovely. And these are some examples of CC license material platforms. And I'd just like to highlight two of them in particular, just because I have the time and you're all captured here and you have to listen to me. So first of all, I just want to highlight the Internet Archive and the excellent work that the Internet Archive do. They host and preserve a lot of material, our digital culture, our online activity, and the Wayback Machine in particular is more and more relevant, sadly, every single day. It has come under increasing denial of service attacks. There's been lawsuits. And in actual fact, the current US administration is coming for open in a big way. Some of you may know, but NASA used to have an open science course with a digital badge that I went on about ad nauseum and encouraged everybody to do, which now 404 hours and now does not exist on the internet whatsoever. So unfortunately, open is under attack. But the Internet Archive does a lot of unsung work, and they archive and preserve, and they also accept donations, and they absolutely need our help right now. Secondly, I just want to highlight the Wikimedia Commons, because this is something fun that I've been able to encourage people to get involved in. So it's a media file repository, and it's public domain and CC licensed educational media content, which is like images, sound, video files, that kind of stuff. And it's available to everyone in their own language. It's also a repository for the Wikimedia Foundation, and it's created and maintained not by paid archivists, not by paid librarians, but actually by volunteers. So there's a lot of fun stuff here, and I just want to highlight the photo challenge in particular. So the photo challenge, basically what it is they look through the Wikimedia Commons, and they look for gaps in the collection, and then they make it a title, a theme for the photo challenge. There's usually 2 a month, 2 themes a month, and people are encouraged to upload images they take themselves that they're happy to be CC licensed. You get to choose which CC license you'd like to publish your work under, and then users vote on which images will come first, second, and third. So for example, here we have the first place for Footprints from December, which I think is just such a lovely image. It's actually in the public domain, and I didn't have to reference it, but I wanted to anyway. So you can also vote on previous themes. So February was absence and healthy living, quite interesting. And this has been going on for over a decade. So there's a lot there. There's some really excellent photographs. And you can use them. So like I've been using them throughout my presentation, you know, like that's what they're for, they're available. And also just to highlight Wiki Loves Folklore, which is happening this year, and they want you to upload local cultural photos, which will be CC licensed. And yeah, I just think, why not, you know? So it's particularly if you're fond of an old photo, if you're one of these people who's really good with your camera, why not, you know? So some fun stuff. This is the kind of examples that if I'm in a pub and somebody's like, what is it that you actually do? These are the kind of things that I like to talk about. And there's literally so many examples that I could choose from. The real challenge in this presentation in particular was editing and pointing to just a few choice things. And there is such a big focus, for excellent reason, on journals, books, research, and so on. But this stuff is just a little bit outside the box that I thought might be fun for everyone to learn. So first of all, free beer, right? So this is open source beer. The recipe for this beer has been published under an open license. Anybody can take it and make that beer. It's by the artist collective Superflex. It's CC by SA. And there have been many iterations of this free beer, including quite recently in 2022, somebody made free Ukraine beer with this recipe. And then similarly, there's open cola. So unlike the secret of Coca-Cola formula, these recipes are CC licensed and their reuse is encouraged. And it kind of, these two in particular, I feel sort of really demonstrate the proprietary nature of almost everything, and how like opening up knowledge for everyone is so valuable. And then open games. I mean, when I first learned this, my mind was kind of blown, because I'm somebody who loves Cards Against Humanity, and I had no idea that they were actually openly licensed. And so is Secret Hitler, and so is the core strategy for Dungeons and Dragons. They're all CC licensed. And it kind of demonstrates, in my opinion, that copyright holders and creators can make an open version of their work available. Like there's nothing stopping you from downloading Cards Against Humanity. It literally says on their website, all you need is some paper and scissors and a printer, and you can play this game. And it's, you know, there's no barrier to entry there. Or you can pay them money for the printed, lovely, beautiful looking card in a really nice box. That's a lovely product. There's nothing stopping you playing the game, but there's also nothing stopping them from generating a revenue stream from their material, and they get to retain the copyright of their work. So those are just some fun things that I hope you'd like. But just to kind of coming to the end here, today is actually the 10-year anniversary of my grandma. And when writing this presentation, I was thinking, what would get my grandma excited about open access? Like, what could I tell her about that she would go, oh my God, that's great. And it sent me on a bit of a bent. And I found this excellent library guide from the Indiana Simmons University, I believe. And they have a great library guide about Creative Commons for patterns. And not only that, but they link to the Antique Pattern Library, which is a project of metaverse libraries, which is real libraries in virtual environments. Very, very interesting. I could go on about that for ages. But the Antique Pattern Library is really, really interesting because it has a lot of antique patterns that are available under CC BY NCSA licenses. And we had a bit of a poke around. It seems like a really genuinely great collection. They have a great wealth of material. They actually need some help. They've advertised on their homepage that catalogers are needed to help make this collection more findable and accessible for everyone so that everyone's able to see it. So if anyone in the audience wants to volunteer their time, head to the homepage and find out more. So final thought, and just to say this is the winner for December pastels. I really like this image. So my final thoughts are, open is for everyone, and there's so much out there. There's all kinds of knowledge, and all kinds of knowledge should be made open for everyone forever, and they should be preserved. That's just genuinely how I feel about it. I know I'm a bit of an evangelist, but this is my unfiltered thoughts, and I truly believe, why not get involved? Volunteer, advocate, meet demand, publish open access, whatever that you're already doing, publish it open. So thank you all so much for your time. I really hope I haven't gone over. I'd like to just say that, I've created this really short, it's literally just one bar of a Microsoft form. And I would just ask that if you're sharing a link with me, that you include a really short description, just to kind of aid me in creating the resource I will after this. And as mentioned, I have this form, the QR is still there. And I'd just like to say that I culled so much from this, and I really am cutting myself off here quickly. But gur mila and happy shocking the Gaeilge, everyone. And thank you so much for listening to me.